Okay, so part two, we're going to go through a simple example of duopoly. So duopoly is an oligopoly with two firms. So we're just going to simplify the streaming video service network to Netflix and Amazon Prime. So people can either buy Netflix or they can buy Amazon Prime. I know there's some other streaming services, but we're going to consider just these are the two main ones. They're the only ones available. So an interesting thing about streaming video is these producers can provide more streaming video for essentially no marginal cost. So whatever they make is profit. Because once you have the system set up, you can just keep creating licenses for essentially no money. So their marginal cost is $0. So if I sell an account for $8, I make $8 on that account. The first account, though, to create that first one is tough, though, because you got to get all the systems up and running. Okay, so let's take a look at this table here. Go ahead and move to the next slide, and you'll see it shows you three things. I want you to take a look. What are the three things that it shows, and what do they tell you? So take a look, think about this. It's the first column, second column, third column showing. So first column, we see quantity. This is the number of accounts. Price, we see, is going down as there are more accounts, which makes sense. The lower the price, the more people are going to buy. And then it shows total revenue, which, remember, total revenue is just price times quantity. And because marginal cost is 0 here, this is also total profit. We're going to ignore the fixed costs associated with this. All right, so take a look. Think about what might happen. And remember, these this quantity and revenue, they're split between two different firms, Netflix and Amazon. Okay, go ahead and move to the next slide. What should the firms do? Well, they should do what all firms do. They maximize profits. How does this happen, though? Because it's a little more complex. In perfect competition, we just wanted price to equal marginal cost. That's where firms were price takers. It's where things were sold. Here, price equals marginal cost at $0. At $0, 600 accounts were sold. But $0 of revenue are generated, so we're not maximizing profits here. So it's not when price equals marginal cost. In a monopoly, the maximum profits were at 300 units. So the monopolist can just sell as much as they want to make as much money as they want. So the monopolist would sell 300 units. And you might think that the duopoly would do the same, but it's a little more complex. So keep moving. So what is the oligopolist strategic decision? Well, they have two decisions, really. First, they can do what's called collude. Collude is just coming to an agreement. So they agree, we're going to sell this many streaming video accounts at this price. That's collusion. They're not competing anymore, they're just agreeing to something. And when this happens, that group of firms is called a cartel. And it's essentially a monopoly. So when 2, 3, 4, 5 firms decide to collude, they set price and quantity, it acts like a monopoly. So if Netflix and Amazon can collude, then they'll sell 300 accounts at $12 because they make the most money. And that's 300 accounts between the both of them. So this is important. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Because if Netflix and Amazon collude and split profits equally, each firm's going to make $1,800. That's 150 accounts times $12 each, and that's how you get that. So let's say you're the CEO of Netflix. What might you do now? So I want you to think about the table. Go back, take a look at this table. Currently, you're selling at $12 right here. You are selling half of this 150, and you get half of this 3,600. I want you to think, what might you be able to do in order to maximize your profits? Take a look. You can pause here, go back and examine, discuss with a partner, try to figure out what would you do. So what was your business decision? When you are ready to go over this, when you got your decision all set, go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, so competition and the Nash equilibrium. We're on this slide here now. So you may notice that if you were the CEO of Netflix and you lowered your price to $8, you can produce more accounts and increase your own profits. Why is this? So if we go to $8, so let's say both of you are selling at $12. There's 12. But now Netflix lowers to 8. Well, instead of selling 150, they're now going to sell all 400 accounts and make $3,200. So it's not the maximum profit for both firms, but it is the maximum profit for Netflix. So this decision, they cut out Amazon and Netflix makes more money. But what is Amazon going to do in response? Well, they'll lower their prices too to $8. And now you're splitting $3,200 instead of $3,600. So after that happens, you might actually hurt yourself. But in the short run, competition drives you to lower prices. So it's this balance as an oligopolist between, do I collude or do I compete? Because you want to make the most money, but depending on how things happen, you might have to form a cartel to do that, or you might have to compete to do that. Also of note, it's not legal to form a cartel in most places. The U.S. has strict antitrust laws that prevent this. So this equilibrium that happens eventually when oligopolists compete is called a Nash equilibrium. It was created by the mathematician John Nash. If you ever saw the movie A Beautiful Mind, he was the creator of this. Brilliant man, won a Nobel Prize for his work. Just a little tidbit. Alright, so what were our main points on the next slide? Kind of last slide for this lecture. Within the chapter. So oligopolies produce more output than a monopoly, but less than a competitive market. They're not fully efficient, but they're more efficient than a monopoly. But antitrust laws and competitive drive will prevent these firms from acting like a monopoly. So legally, you're not allowed to form a cartel in the U.S., and even if you were, firms would still compete to try to undercut each other and make more money. So in the next video, we'll go over oligopolies with more firms, how this plays a role, and how it affects decision making, and we'll go through another example. All right, thanks guys.